So now this is going to be a quick review of one of my favorite circuits. So I like how those LEDs are fading back and forth right there. We could use different color LEDs and whatnot. But in any case, we will first look at the schematic. You can see the effect. So we're using a 555 timer, but we are not using the output of the 555 timer, which is pin number 3. It is not providing power for anything. It has the capacitor right there that is charging and discharging. It's in astable mode, so the output is going high and low about at 50% duty cycle, which means that the output is high for about the same amount of time that the output is low. 100k resistance to charge it and 100k resistance to discharge it gets you about equal time. And pin 2 and 6 monitor the voltage of, in this case, 10 microfarad capacitor. That's just the values I'm using. You can change the values as needed to speed up or slow down that fading effect if you want. But in any case, so pin 2, pin 6 are just looking at the voltage of the capacitor right there. Pin 7 does discharge it. Otherwise it charges through there. But the non-inverting input, the plus, I'm using an LM358. I'm using one of the two op amps that are in the integrated circuit. The LM58 is a dual op amp. I didn't really prepare to explain this, so I'm kind of sticking a little bit. But in case, you got to power it right there. We have an op amp over there and an op amp over there. And the inputs are the lower 2 pins on both of the op amps. And the output is the top pin of the op amp. So this is an op amp, those 3 pins, and those 3 pins there. This is the power supply for those op amps. Hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, there's dual op amps. There's also quad op amps, and so on. And so we could use this op amp for something else completely. So we will come back. We have the op amp. So we're at the non-inverting input, and I did not memorize the pin layout. What I used was this kit. So I'm pretty good at knowing the NE555 pin layout, but it also has the pin layout there. So I just looked at that. There you can see we have another op amp there. So that's one tip. Get these kits where they show the pin layout. That will help you a lot in quickly building circuits on the board. Otherwise, you got to go to the data sheet and try to get the pin layout. So we have the non-inverting input right there. That's getting the voltage of the capacitor as well. It's not letting current in or out, although very small amount does trickle through. That's something you have to take into account. But when you're using op amps, you want one that's not going to affect the voltage of what it is looking at. When it comes to the inverting input, now we have feedback. So what that does, it takes the voltage at the non-inverting input, which is the capacitor voltage right there, and it sets the output to that same voltage the best that it can. And that's because of the negative feedback right there. And the reason why is because the output always wants to be more like the non-inverting input than the inverting input. And so if this voltage is higher than what you got there, the output voltage goes up. If this voltage is lower than what you got there, the voltage goes down. Since we have the feedback, the voltage, if things go well, can never be higher or lower than what it is right there. So ultimately, you got the same voltage because it's looking at that voltage and adjusting it to make this voltage the same as that one. That's what negative feedback does. Now, we also have to power the load. So this is probably as big of a load as this particular op amp can provide. It's not a power op amp, but seems to light red LEDs fairly well. And so we got to the positive supply, one of the red LEDs. It lights up when the output is closer to ground right there. And sometimes it's about halfway, and then sometimes it is probably connects to ground pretty well right there. It's a single supply op amp, which means it connects to ground really well, but not as well to the positive supply. Now when the output gets to be as close to the positive supply as it can be right there, then that LED lights up. And then in the middle ground region, it'll get like halfway this will light up, you know, just a tiny bit, and that one will light up just a tiny bit, and we will go back and look. And again, this is a rectifier diode to make it so current doesn't have to pass through two resistors, it passes through one, and then it passes through the other when it discharges, because it can't go back through the diode. So we will come back. And again, this is wired as a stable mode. The only thing is we're not using the output to power anything. That's the one capacitor and the diode to charge, and then the resistor going to pin 7 to discharge. This jumper is going down to pin 6, even though it's kind of covered right there. Monitoring the capacitor voltage, as is pin 2, as is the non-inverting input down there, the plus. And then the minus is there. We got our little jumper going to the output. And so output's going to go up when this voltage goes up, and the output's going to go down when this voltage goes down, because we have that negative feedback. It's keeping their voltages the same, which is what the op amp does when it's got negative feedback. And there you can see we are powering the loads. So when both LEDs are lit a fair amount, we have about 2.5 volts coming out here. So that's 5 volts, about 2.5 volt difference. And then this is 0 volts down here, so about 2.5 volt difference. Hopefully that makes sense. That's when they're light up about equally. When this one is really bright, this is pretty close to 0 volts right there. 5 and 0. That's where we got our big difference. That one lights fully. That one's off because 0 volts and 0 volts is no voltage difference. So that one will turn off basically. And we're not quite getting that full range, but hopefully you get the point. And then the opposite, when this one's really bright, since that's the negative supply, that means we're as close to 5 volts as this can get right there. So that one gets bright. That's 5 volts there, and so there's barely any voltage difference. Now, we actually don't get that far. Remember, the capacitor charges to 1/3 and 2/3 supply voltage. So we're actually not getting down to 0 volts, and this can't even get up to 5 volts. But we're getting what, I can't remember exactly what it is, I believe 1.33, and then probably 3.66 or something like that. But 1/3 and 2/3 of 5 volts is going across the LEDs. I just used the extremes before because they're a little easier to understand. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense. So these are all topics I've gone over. I've done this circuit and probably in more detail before, although this is about an 8-minute video. So this, I may have covered everything. I planned to do this quicker than I did, but that's okay. As long as it's going well, I don't mind. And then, yeah, I wrote a little note on there. Don't know if you noticed, but op amp output voltage is the same as capacitor voltage. So again, it's just looking at that voltage. That's what the op amp inputs do. The inputs just look at the voltage. That's all they care about. A little bit does, you know, sneak through because you can't make it a perfect insulator and do what it does. But you know, practically none slips through. And then some op amps are better than others for the impedance for coming in. You'll have to look at like the leakage current or something on the data sheet. If you have something really, really sensitive, you might need a more expensive op amp. But odds are that you don't. You know, vast majority of circuits, this op amp will probably work if you can use a single supply op amp. As I said before, this circuit, we don't need a rail-to-rail op amp because the capacitor voltage is not going rail-to-rail, as I said before. So, any case, yeah, that's enough rambling on about this. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you check out one of the other videos I'm posting to the screen, and check out the links down below. That'll help out a lot. I'll see you in the next video.